YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Recapping NFL's Thanksgiving action. 3 games to break down here. We'll have 2 of these recap videos for Week 13. This one right here. And then recapping all the Sunday games early on Monday like we usually do. But 3 very interesting games went down. I was 1 for 3 on the day, so rough day, but really enjoyed watching these games. Very interesting ones. And I feel like we learned a bit, mainly from one game. There was one game where we kind of learned a bit about 2 teams, and maybe we got a more firm identity on those teams. So we'll break that down in just a second. Extra content on the Patreon, patreon.com/thegoathouse. There's a link in the description. Playoff predictions, score predictions, mock drafts, all of that updated every single week in part of one package deal. You get plenty more, and always more being added to that Patreon throughout the whole year. So for more info, just go ahead and click that link in the description, that Patreon link. Really appreciate that. Would really appreciate you if you guys can subscribe. If you already do subscribe, we appreciate you very much. 40K, trying to get that goal by the end of the year. We're getting pretty close to that time, and we're getting pretty close to the goal. So appreciate you guys if you help us out here. Full NFL content daily, even in the off season here. So it'll be worth it to subscribe. Click that like button. Check us out on Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. First game, Bears, Lions, 24-20 final. Little higher scoring than I expected. I thought this would hit the under. Both teams got off to a good start. The Bears score on the first drive. That's the thing with the Bears. They usually get the ball first in the second half. And if you actually look statistically by quarter, they're bottom of the NFL in offense in the first quarter, the second quarter, in the fourth quarter. They're ranked second in the third quarter, second in the NFL. That's because they usually get the ball to start the second half. Matt Nagy at halftime comes up with a script. It's a pretty good one, and it kind of works out. But when they have to adjust, live, like within the game, when there's adjustments to be made, that's when they struggle. So instead of getting the ball to start the second half, they get it to start the game. And what do? They go down there and score. So that's an impressive part about Nagy. Like, he has a good idea for his offense. Like, he knows his offense, and he's able to, write up a script that works. It's very successful. But when they have to make adjustments or crucial moments, third and shorts, fourth and shorts, or whatever, if they have the decision to punt, kick a field goal, there seems to be some confusion. And sometimes I can't tell if it's Nagy, making it tougher on his quarterback, or the quarterback making it tougher on Nagy. But the quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, was clutch in this game down the line. Didn't make too many big-time throws, but at the end, he made a few of them which were beyond big time. They were clutch, big time throws, perfect placement, and that's really what won them the game. Like, if he doesn't go and do that, they don't win this game. They don't. So it's something different than we've seen from the Bears. I know that the Lions defense, I guess, is on the weaker side this year, but I don't really think it matters who the defense is, the opponent is. It's just kind of just going out and doing it, and that's kind of what the difference was, and they made those big plays at the right moment. Backtracking a little bit. Earlier in the game, they go out and score, and then the Lions get a third down and make a big play to Kenny Galladay. So David Blah just shows us what he's got. And, going in this game, I picked the Lions. I didn't think the quarterback would be a reason the Bears win or lose, and I was kind of right on that, but I just picked the wrong team, which I don't really regret picking the Lions. They controlled this game most of the way. The Bears made the big plays that we haven't really seen this year, so I don't really regret picking the Lions. It looked like they could have won that game, and it was a good game, and the quarterback definitely was not at fault. I think they limited him a little too much. They were up, and they were wanting to waste the clock a little bit, so you can't really blame them, but they kind of ran the ball a little too much. Didn't really trust them to throw downfield when they were up, and that kind of cost them a bit. But yeah, going back again, that Kenny Galladay touchdown, the Bears, actually I saw that this morning, that the Bears only had 10 players on the field during that. I'm not sure how that happens. But yeah, the Lions kind of controlled the game. I didn't really like the officiating in this game. This was the game where I really disliked the officiating. It was, I guess in the last game it was a little rough, but this was the worst one, I thought. A lot of illegal blocks in the back on offense. It's like a special teams call. They had a lot of them, both sides, on both teams. There was I never really complain about, a miss roughing the passer call. You're not going to see me complain like, you got to call roughing the passer. Like, I never do that. I'm all about making football violent again, I guess you could put it. But they missed one on Trubisky. He took a shot in the face well after he let go of the ball. So I was surprised they missed that. I guess Trubisky doesn't get the special treatment. Not the biggest fan base this year, so maybe that's what it is. It's pretty sad if that's what it is, but that was a little rough. And yeah, the illegal block in the backs, I thought there was one that was very costly to the Lions that kind of changed the game. I thought I don't want to say the refs decided the game because the Bears went out there and played very well at the end, so they won the game, but it almost felt like the refs, made that call that could have decided the game, and it was a legal block in the back after Bo Scarborough had a really good run, and they call it back, and that was tough. But there was a lot of crucial plays. I think early on, kind of going back and forth throughout this game right now, but Anthony Miller had a fumble, and it was like either way. Either way, I don't really have a problem with the call, but I just thought it would stand on the field giving the ball to the Lions, and they reversed that. But I don't really have a problem with it. I was just kind of surprised. So that was kind of a crucial moment if we kind of backtrack and look at what happened earlier in the game. And then you had moments, like the Bears only had 10 players on the field when they let up a touchdown. And then you had the moments where McKissick should have had a walk-in touchdown, but he hesitated a bit, and Kyle Fuller made a clutch tackle. But all McKissick had to do was just run outside full speed. It's an easy touchdown. So that was pretty brutal there. And like I said, the illegal block in the back calls, I thought there was a very crucial one on the Lions there. I think they could have, if they would have got that, they were at midfield just past Bears, into Bears territory, and they could have ran the clock to put the game away, or another touchdown would have put the game away. So that was really crucial. But the Bears clutched up when they got the ball back. Trubisky hit 2 great throws. The last one to Anthony Miller, to me, I did not actually think that was a catch. I looked at it several times again and again, and I don't like the Lions coaching staff not challenging that. I don't know how you don't. I think the only reason they didn't was because they had 2 timeouts, and they didn't. If the Bears scored, they didn't want to be stuck with 1 if they lost that. But Trubisky throws a perfect ball, I thought, and then Anthony Miller kind of lost the ball, and it was sitting in his lap and spinning, almost moving as his upper body slid out of bounds. I strongly don't think that was a catch. But it seems like everything's a catch today. Every game you watch, there's a ball that's just sliding across the ground as somebody catches it. The NFL goes from one extreme to another in terms of what is a catch. And this year, I've said it several times, it seems like receiver is by far the easiest position to play in the NFL because everything's a catch, and everything seems to be PI too. Not really in this game, but just throughout the NFL. So it's something I've noticed, and it's kind of throughout the year, really, it's kind of getting to me. But and then the Bears clutch up, score, the Lions get a shot, and then I didn't really like that Khalil Mack just completely beat, I think it was Wagner, and they throw a holding call. Nobody touched him. He completely got beat. And the Lions had their opportunities at the end, but it was a good, something. The Bears were able to clutch up at the end, kind of like they did last year. And it's good to kind of see that, see if they can get back on track. It might be too late with the NFC being that good. And looking at the rest of the Bears schedule, that's where the first place schedule kind of comes into play. 4 tough games, and I think they can definitely win a couple of them. It's possible. I think they'll be the underdogs in every single one, but it's possible if the energy momentum changes, and I think a game like this could. So we'll see. I don't know what's going on with the Lions, really. I've been kind of back and forth on Patricia. Should they let him go? Originally I was saying they kind of got to give him more of a chance, but he's the defensive coach, and you got a third-string quarterback in there, and the offense is doing enough, I think, against a good defense. While the defense, can't seem to tackle, guys aren't filling gaps. Not a lot of motivation, it seems like, and that's kind of on Patricia. So it's a tough call for the Lions. I know it's not really fair because his quarterback's hurt, but he's, considering he's supposed to be the defensive guy, it's a little rough. This was a good game, though. I thought the Lions had a legit shot to win that one. Unfortunate that I did pick the Lions, but I don't really regret that one. This one I definitely regret picking the Cowboys. The whole Goat House picked the Cowboys, and we all regret it. And the score, you see the 11-point win, odd score too. I could have predicted 26 possibly, but not 15. Not really a score I predict. But then the next game had an odd score line as well. 2 26s in a row. But regret not picking the Bills. Regret not really believing in the Bills a little more. At this point, I definitely thought they were going to make the playoffs at this point. But every time, it seems like both these teams, every time they play a good team, and I consider both of them good, but every time they play a good team, they struggle a little bit. That's what it seems like, and they lose really. Even if it's not much of a struggle, they lose. So this was a true test for both teams, and this was the game. The beginning, the intro of this video I talked about. This is a game where I kind of learned something. The Bills are just the better team. They're better than the Cowboys, whether they should be or not. They're better than the Cowboys, plain and simple. It almost felt like they're better on both sides of the ball. We know they're better on them on defense. They're well coached. Beats out the Cowboys. It seems like they're getting a lot better too. It definitely seems like they're getting a lot better. So I'm a believer in the Bills. I was kind of tweeting that out. Joking, not really joking, but I'm serious on the part that we are serious about the Bills. But next week's the Ravens, so that might be a tough one to pick them. But we kind of got to see what happens the rest of the week. But the Bills, definitely a believer in them all around. Josh Allen's a guy that's getting better and better, and he just my favorite thing about him is he just looks natural. There's no hesitation. There's not a lot of thinking. What do I do here? And when quarterbacks do that, they run out of time. He just kind of goes out and does it, and that's what I love about him. And there was some concerns there, coming from Wyoming. Turning the ball over, but a lot of hesitation, and he's kind of really not knowing what he should do. But when he makes the big plays, it looks like he just goes and does it, and he makes the big play, and that's what everyone liked about him. On top of that, the good size, the arm strength. And what everybody saw and what everybody doubted on the outside, what people saw in the NFL, they were right. And what people saw on the outside and kind of doubted him just because of his statistics and his accuracy, they were wrong, because this guy can play. He had the potential the whole way, just needed to get in the right system. And what do you know? The Buffalo Bills were the right system there. Because, he's got everything you want in a quarterback. He's not, no way, the best quarterback in football right now, but he is getting better. He is playing great, I'd say, and he's got everything you want in a quarterback. So I see a bright future for the Bills, and even this year too. And they've drafted well all around. But where you got to give the big credit to is what they did with the offensive line. They changed it around just like that. I'd say a bottom 10 offensive line last year, and I think a top 10 offensive line this year. And it was changed all over, but I think there was 2 steals they got, which I've pointed out in the past even, and what other people pointed out. You look at the obvious one is the steal in the draft. Cody Ford, first round grade on him from myself, from pretty much everybody. They make sure they get him in the second round, and it's a plug and play guy there, and it's worked out tremendously. But free agency, a guy I was hyping up back in free agency, and a guy that I was confused on how the Titans weren't getting back because he was their best offensive lineman, I thought last year, based on last year, was Quentin Spain, and he's been tremendous for them. I thought that was an absolute steal in free agency, and it's been for them. It's just super impressive, and Josh Allen kind of working with the offensive line. They work well together. There's a lot of trust there. Josh Allen's able to climb the pocket, make, beautiful throws, and you got to compliment both Josh Allen for just being natural and not hesitating, and then the offensive line for him to be able to do that. The receivers are getting open. We talk about they could use another good receiver, but these guys are playing good. Cole Beasley, revenge game was great. John Brown's been great. He threw a touchdown pass. The running backs look pretty solid. Another spot where you could use another guy to mix with Singletary for the future, but they're still just playing out of their minds right now. It's looking great. And the defense, we knew the defense was good. And the Cowboys, they struggle in the red zone this year. And the Bills defense, if there was a weakness, it was kind of the red zone defense. Once teams got down there, they've kind of scored here and there, maybe minus the Browns game. Not scored a lot, but compared to their defense, which I consider a top 5. I wouldn't consider the red zone top 5. So before this game, the Cowboys, I thought they can figure out their red zone woes, I guess. But it was like the opposite almost. The Cowboys, it took them 2 plays to get to midfield. Every time. It was so easy. Dak was making great throws, whether it was any receiver, Cooper, Gallup. It seemed like in the middle of the field a lot. But then they had the crucial throws on the sideline like they usually do. But then Zeke was going off too. It seemed like the first play they got the ball, Zeke would find a hole. He looked a little faster than he has the rest of the previous games this year. And then they would throw it, and just like that, they're into midfield, into Bills territory, and then just lock down D, shut down D. I question the play calling at times for the Cowboys. You would think Zeke could get the ball a little more. I understand you're down pretty much this whole game, besides the first drive, which that looked great. I'm like, oh boy, the Cowboys are going to blow them out, which I picked the Cowboys, but I didn't expect it to be that easy. And then just adjustments, changes everywhere. You got to credit the Bills defense. The pass rush was, if you had to point out, I guess specifically, you wish the Bills' pass rush was a little better to make it an elite defense, throughout the year. But it was dominant in this game. The defensive tackle, the interior defensive line, really got going in this game. Ed Oliver, who's been quiet here and there, which isn't surprising. He's kind of a raw guy with elite potential, but he busted out in this game. Starla Tulele made some plays, and Jordan Phillips has been everywhere all year, so that's not surprising that he was good. You guys know I love the linebacker duo. I mean, that Milano and Edmonds was dominant. Were dominant in this game. DBs were great once again. They would let the Cowboys in to about midfield, but then kind of just lock it down, and that was impressive there. They made the big plays. They were getting called for quite a few illegal contacts early in this game, but they really fixed that. And they could have had. They felt like they could have had like 2 more picks. I think early in the game they had one, and there was illegal contact, and then there was another one. I think they called hands to the face. Ball got tipped up in the air, and they got another turnover. We thought, but hands to the face call, which I think was the right call. But it seems like every time there's a big play, it almost seems like there's a bailout for somebody. But again, I think it was the right call after seeing it. But the Bills made some big plays. Really impressed with this team. I think at this point, it's not really a defensive team anymore. This team can be an offensive threat at any given time. I think the last few games were key. They found kind of their way. Early in the year, Josh Allen was trying to be his big play self, turn the ball over, get teams in games, and then they try to make him. I've been saying this for weeks too. They've been trying to make him into like a game manager, but he's got big playability. You can't really do that. So they kind of split the difference there. They kind of over the last couple of weeks, they've kind of split the difference. And it didn't really matter who they played. They kind of needed that. And I was saying that last week, and it's looking pretty good right now. Cowboys, it's not looking good. A talented team that definitely should be better. I don't like the play calling. Dak didn't play his best game. Credit to the Bills defense for causing that. They got the Bears next week. If they don't beat the Bears, I know the Bears maybe are heating up now, but I guess look at who they played, the Giants and the Lions. But if the Cowboys can't win that game, if they don't win the game, I know it's Thursday night in Chicago, but if you don't win that game, there's a bigger problem now. There's a bigger problem. So, Bills, very impressed with them. They should. Power rankings are not coming until Tuesday, and a lot of other teams need to play to shake things up. But I would expect I have the Bills moving up after that one. And another odd score line, another team scoring 26. Saints, my only win of the day, which I've been pretty good on straight up picks this year. So it was a weird day, I guess. Again, I regret the Bills pick. Don't really regret the Lions one. Almost had that one. But this one got a little scary at the end. But I did predict the score of this one, 27-17 Saints. So 1 point off for both teams. So pretty close. Would never have predicted somebody to get 18. 26 is definitely doable. But yeah, I thought I guess the score doesn't really show the Saints. You can't say dominance, but it felt like they're a little more the way this game was, it felt like they won by more than this. I guess what happened at the end, which Saints definitely need to clean things up there, made it a little closer. The Saints dominated this game defensively. The Falcons' offensive line, I'm going to have to pat myself in the back once again, but before the season, I was predicting the Falcons' offensive line would be very bad, and people were just not having that. They were not having, I think non-Falcons fans were not having it. I know there was nothing that really showed anybody that on the field previously. I think they took a step down last year, but they got a lot of young guys, new guys, and they had injuries, so this is not a surprise to me. This offensive line's playing this way, and which forces Matt Ryan to be playing rough. Some of those mistakes are still on him though, and on the play calling. They need to roll him out a little more. I think an example of what the Vikings have done. They kind of the times they just stick Kirk Cousins in the pocket and make him stay there. The pocket collapses and bad things happen. Once they get him rolling out, he looks like a whole different quarterback. And I think that's what they kind of got to do with Matt Ryan here, so I don't really like the play call. I hate first play of the game. I was tweeting about it. First play of the game where Matt Ryan got sacked. You can blame the offensive line. You can blame Matt Ryan, whatever you want. I think it's wrong to blame those for that play specifically. They start the first play of the game with an empty backfield, no running back in the backfield. That's what that means. No running back in the backfield. Anybody that played defense or anybody that knows football knows that a big part of defense is a guessing game. That's what it is. It's why it's so hard to play. It's a guessing game. And I always say, I've been saying for a long time, Number one rule to be a good offense, be unpredictable. What happens when you put no running back in the backfield on the very first play of the game? You're telling everybody, which a lot of teams run the ball on first down. So, but they're still on their toes, thinking they can pass. We don't want to give them any deep shots on first down. So what happens when you have no running back in the backfield on first down? They're passing. They can rush the passer and have some good coverage downfield. They don't have to worry about, filling gaps or anything. Linebackers staying home and filling those gaps to stop the run. You don't have to worry about any of that. And it's just a sack. So I don't know what that decision was. I don't get how whoever makes that call, I don't get how they have that job in the NFL. I know it's one call, even though it happened several times in this game, but that's one that is as bad as any as I've seen. First play of the game, first down, questionable, very questionable to say the least. So right off the bat, I'm kind of getting pissed. Not a Falcons fan, but I just don't like when you see decisions like that. It just gets to me. I just don't get the logic. What made them think it's a good idea? And the same thing with not rolling Matt Ryan out. I know some instances, they're scared of rolling him. I guess there's some excuses on that because they're in passing situations. You 100% know they're passing. If you roll out, you possibly could be rolling out right into a Cam Jordan or Davenport, but sitting in the pocket, a Cam Jordan who had 4 sacks and a Davenport who was a monster, and the Sheldon Rankins and all those guys, they were just collapsing the pocket and get to him anyway. So I don't get why not give it a try. It's worked for other teams. But yeah, it was a little more dominated by the Saints, and the score will show. The onside kicks, they'll have to fix for sure because the Bears were getting on them as well earlier in the year, if you remember that game. And they even the ones that they did not recover, I know they had some called back in this game. There was really 3 in a row. I think an extra one happened in the Bears game too. So that's even concerning, even though when they don't count. That's something that needs to be cleaned up. I guess that would be a Saints way to lose in the playoffs. Looking at last year, they got screwed over by a missed penalty. But the years before that, the multiple years before that, they just, that's the type of way I guess they would kind of blow it. So they got to fix that. Kind of going back, Kamara. It feels like I feel like it's the same Kamara game every single week. It's like the same. He gets a pretty good average, but they're limiting him, and I can't tell if they want to, save him or they think he's still hurt. And now I'm kind of thinking he's not 100% still. Even though he gets pretty good yards and he still makes some big plays, he still doesn't really look right to me because sometimes we have these one-on-ones in the open field. There was a 99.9% chance that he wins that battle as he should with his athletic ability. And I'm a big Kamara guy. I expect a lot from the guy. Now it doesn't feel like he's winning a lot of those. And then there is a little bit of hesitation when getting the ball if he sees somebody coming at him. So I think he is. I don't think he's 100% still. I'm not really concerned because they are limiting him the right way. But I am, sometimes with the Saints, I guess maybe it's the Falcons thing. Maybe it's something with the Falcons. They got by them this time. They won the division, so it's great. But it just feels like they can do more. It's sometimes when you watch offenses and they can't, do much, like the Falcons, and they can't do much, they can't do enough. It's because offensive line's playing pretty bad. Play calling's pretty bad. Quarterback's not getting rid of the ball. He's throwing on the wrong team. The other team's got a good pass rush. They're getting after him. They got a good whole defense. That doesn't really feel like with the Saints. It felt like they could have done more, so that's why it's a little. They won the game, but it's a little, tiny bit, questionable or alarming, I should say, just a little bit. For those big games, like if they play the Niners or whatever it is. So, I still like the Saints as an elite contender, but just saying maybe it's a Falcons thing. Who knows what's going on with Kamara? Or I don't think he's 100%, but he still had an overall solid game. But it's been like the same thing the last few weeks. Odd game where Michael Thomas doesn't do much, but the Falcons DBs did pretty good job. Kendall Sheffield actually looked pretty good. That was kind of a late round day 3 pick. Out of Ohio State was kind of the athletic guy. The athletic guy, which you have glimpses of, he can play, but really raw. You're going to have to work with him. That's one of those guys. He looked pretty good, pretty tight in coverage, which I worried about. He looked pretty good. So maybe there's some upside there. Maybe the future is him and Oliver. Oliver, could be better, but still young. And I didn't mind that draft pick a couple years ago. And then Grady Jarrett, you got to credit him, and that guy's a beast, absolute beast, kind of carrying this defense at times. But yeah, the Saints defensive line, Cam Jordan going to be up for Player of the Week for sure after that performance, just an animal. Him versus Caleb McGarry really isn't that fair. McGarry's still young, still definitely can get a lot better, but I really wasn't a huge fan of that pick. But still, you can't judge him yet, especially going against an elite defensive end like Cam Jordan. So, saw Kiko Alonso flying around to the ball. Love that. He was flying around to the ball. I always thought he was an underrated. I never really liked the guy because I definitely think, I don't like calling guys cheap, but there's been multiple occasions where I have not liked what he's done. But I like his game, and I thought he's been underrated. And I thought that trade, some people were ripping the Saints for that trade, which they traded nothing for him. And I didn't really get why people were ripping them for that, because that was just a win-win situation. Even if he has games where he maybe not his best, it only helps the defense. So I like this defense. Mario Davis playing out his mind. Drew Brees could have had a better game. I feel like they could have done more, but what are you going to do? They won the AFC South. I think they'll be just fine in the playoffs. And they got by the Falcons, through the Falcons game, even though they lost to them the first time. They got through the two Falcons games. I think there's some kind of odd situation, I guess, with them. Maybe a mismatch, but because it seems like they struggle a little bit against them, and that's about it. So they got through that game. An interesting game, especially at the end of the game with the onside. So the Saints just got to clean that up. Great kicks, obviously, from the Falcons. And, yeah, they had a shot, but then really didn't because of the offensive line versus that pass rush and not able to roll Matt Ryan out. I thought Calvin really had a good game. Without Julio Jones out, really had a good game. You see the separation he gets. He's able to get open. Apple struggled on him early. They kind of had to put Lattimore on him, which I don't know if it's because Lattimore was he's still a little, maybe not 100%, or because they were wanting to run more zone, but it seemed like a lot of man with Apple on him. Apple wasn't doing the worst job. I guess really was getting some yards, but yeah, there was a PI call on Apple earlier. It was just underthrown by 20 yards. I didn't like that call. I mean, people will say, yeah, he made contact, but just put yourself in the shoes of the corner. The ball's underthrown. It just feels like, kind of going back to what I said when who was I talking about? The Bears game. And it's kind of it's building up from other games. The receiver position just seems so easy to play in today's NFL because they're making it so, well, corners, I think, besides quarterbacks, the hardest position to play, but they're making it so everything's a catch, everything's a PI, but mainly receivers have a way more right to the ball than the defensive back or anybody on the field. So they went from one extreme to another, and it seems like receiver is just by far the easiest position to play in NFL. It's like, it's just if they got some speed, they can get a little bit of separation, and they don't have bricks for hands. Well, there you go. That guy can play receiver. That's kind of what it feels like right now. I don't know. What's a catch? It feels like everything's a catch, and who has the right to the ball. If those things combining, that's kind of how I was feeling yesterday, but it's not because of yesterday's games. It's kind of a build-up throughout this year. That's kind of my thoughts. But yeah, in that specific PI, I know most people agree with it because there was contact, but just think of the circumstances, how that ball was thrown, and the receiver just wasn't going to catch that ball. It kind of just went up in the air and kind of let them. He almost went into them, and he knew what he was doing. It was smart, but that has to be an absolute mauling for me to call it. That's the way I like to put it. It's just, it didn't really change this game, but it's just kind of me just ranting about the receiver position and the officiating, I guess, today. But it really wasn't all that terrible in this game. Thought it was, the way it started on the day, I thought it was a little worse. But yeah, interesting end of this game. Saints got to clean some things up on the special teams, but we talked long enough about the Thanksgiving games. We'll do this again for the Sunday games. Hopefully we get some good football. Let the boys play. That's what I love to see. Hopefully that goes down. I thought, we'll see. We'll see. It always seems like the NFL's on to something new. What kind of what kind of penalty we're throwing more than usual, and that's what I don't like. But hopefully we see some good games. We got some good ones coming up. The Ravens, Niners, the Patriots, Texans, Vikings, Seahawks. So a lot of crucial game. Titans, Colts, big time game. The Browns, Steelers, revenge game. So really looking forward to Sunday. Really looking forward to recapping on Monday, and then we'll have the power rankings and all kinds of predictions for the next week up on the channel. So hopefully you can join us for that. Hopefully you can subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye.